Hi everyone, I've got Jack Rolfe with me today from the coaching lab. I'm sure a lot of you have used his match play cards. I definitely have, and we're going to talk today about how we can make games more exciting, more fun, more competitive, more challenging for our pupils to make them better games players. So, Jack, thanks very much for your time. I know you're out in Perth at the minute, so thanks very much for coming on. And what makes a good game then, Jack?
You've got to play the game to get better at the game. I think Chris would be the quickest thing, and um, you're a product of your own environment, number one, right? And I often think, and I ask coaches and I ask teachers, and I always say, "What is the game?" Asking players,
Yeah,
and I often when you go into a school, the teacher might set up a game or the coach will set up a game, and I always go and ask the players, "What's the game asking you to do?"
yeah,
And if they're just playing 7v7 with no rules, the goals are in the normal place, there's no problem solving there. There's no decision making really. There's no true learning. And playing a game does not mean you're learning. There has to be something in that game for you to learn, which then gives you questions and gives you the answers in the game to play. And yeah, it's more teachable moments, right, for the teacher and the coach and the sports leader.
Okay, so here we go. My daughter's a French, Spanish, and Italian teacher. She's just started teaching at a school. She's taking the under 15 B girls hockey team at her school. Uh, what should she be doing in her first few sessions? Because a lot of the time for directors of sport, it's not just us, it's maybe the academic stuff and explain to them. So what would you be saying to my daughter? You got the under 15 B hockey. How are you going to make games fun and challenging for them?
Eddie Jones taught me this, and it was you have to work out what makes every single person smile, which probably means you need to ask them what
Yeah.
makes them smile and understand what makes them tick. So I think there's definitely a connection piece between your daughter and the young people in front of her. And the other thing I would always say is if we measured engagement, noise, and movement as three success criterias, we would teach and coach differently for the rest of our lives
Yeah.
rather than measuring did we win, did we score 5 goals
Yeah.
on the weekend or in the game. If we measured that noise,
Yeah.
measured the smiles and the engagement and the movement of those young people, you would definitely teach and coach differently.
Yeah, I agree. I always used to say, if you want to measure the success of one of my lessons, just do a tally chart of smiles because it's sometimes an intangible. But so, what sort of strategies have you got? Obviously, let's share some of the stuff, for instance, that we can use on the match day cards because these are really simple ways. I can bring them out of my pocket. I could even just come out with four cards, couldn't I? Or I can. How can I use those cards or the information in those cards to make the games more fun.
Definitely. Let's go back a couple of steps. So we created a set of multi-sport challenge cards because unfortunately every kid, the most asked question is, can we play a game? But actually we want people to say, what game are we going to play? What game are we going to play? And playing a game definitely shouldn't be a reward for good behavior. And it definitely shouldn't be the last thing we do in a
Yeah,
session. But we also know we're all a little bit guilty of playing a game and maybe just standing on the side with your arms folded, chatting to the director of sport, hopefully not, or the coach and thinking, oh, they're playing a game and they must be learning. And you see the kid on the far side not moving, and you just tell them to move, and suddenly they don't really move because they're just hearing you, but there's no incentive to do it. Or there's the kid that plays hockey outside of school and playing in the midfield at school and dominating, and you want him to pass the ball a little bit more and engage people, and you shout pass, and he doesn't really pass because there's no incentive there to do it. So the cards are there to help you engage those individuals and engage those team situations and scenarios. And comes back to what we said earlier around having the game to ask questions. So it might be we can give each team a different card and they've got to work out what the opposition got to do.
mm,
It might be for that kid that we see at the back, not massively involved, go and give that individual a secret challenge. But we might not stop the whole game because why do we need to stop the game when there's only one or two people that we
yeah,
really need to speak to? So
yeah,
we can go and speak to those individuals and not just stand on the sideline as the teacher or the coach. So set those challenges, set those team challenges. And to me, every kid wants two things and every adult wants two things. They want choice over what they do
yeah,
and they want challenge. So the cards give you that choice and they give you that challenge. to bring you, and unfortunately we get older, don't we, as adults, and the kids get younger, and that connection piece between the game, the player, and the environment all coming together is in the match play cards.
So give me an example of that. I've got a girl playing, at the back in hockey. She's not moving. She's not getting any touches of the ball. She's not learning. So, what sort of individual challenge could I, walk over in the game and give her maybe?
Yeah, one of my favorites is lava floor, and can't be in the same position for more than 4 seconds. So I'll give that to her secretly and, begin to watch the peers, see that difference. And when I go and speak to the group at the end of the game, I might even say, Chris, what did you notice about that person over there?
Yeah,
So actually getting the guys and the girls to feedback on their peers, I think is really powerful.
yeah,
Another one might be if you're involved in the goal, it's worth double points.
yeah,
And being involved could be a tackle that
yeah,
leads to another pass. It could be just the pass, whatever that looks like, but being involved. The other way I'd flip it is I'm massive on peer to peer, and I might even give Chris a card. And it might say help somebody else get involved in the game,
yeah,
which might just be a little bit of a nudge for you as an individual who I know has got great leadership skills.
yeah.
So just go and spend a little bit of time over there and just change your lens of focus a little bit.
And what about sort of team challenges? What have you found of being the best team challenges that kids get excited about?
Yeah, definitely. Best team ones. The value of the goals worth the amount of players involved. Score twice and the goal's worth double. So if you score twice in a row, it's worth double.
Yeah,
If you score in within 45 seconds of winning the ball,
yeah,
it's worth double again.
yeah,
Score the next goal and it's worth triple.
yeah.
Sort of those little things that to me are more teachable moments, but it makes the game not just about the end result. It makes it about that process and that how to get there and not necessarily the what.
And also, I think, some people maybe look down this sort of stuff and think it's not performance led. I was actually listening to a podcast with Thomas Frank from Brentford the other day, and I don't know if you've heard, but one of their work ons this year is can they score a goal within a minute of the kickoff? And of course, that's really challenged his players. And I think they've done it 4 times now. They've scored within a minute of a kickoff. So he was saying, why is it everyone tries to score a goal in the last minute? Why don't we reframe that? And he said it's really energized his players. So, there are ways you can challenge really, really good players as well. So, what would be the ways, for instance, that you found challenge the really, really good players or the really, really good teams?
I frame it as if you want to coach attack, you coach defense.
Okay.
So often you have to coach the other people around them that
Okay.
have an influence on that person.
Yeah.
Even just playing 6 versus 4
Yeah.
straight away has an impact on the team of 4.
Yeah.
But I might say to the guys on team of 4, right, if you score, your goal's worth double.
Yeah.
And if you're on the team of 6, it's only worth one. So straight away, the game's the same, but the end result is slightly different.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in the game should look different for everyone.
Yeah.
I think we're often very guilty of we have 20 kids and the game needs to look the same for each of those 20 kids. And let's say out of that 20, there's 3 kids that play rugby or play basketball outside of school and they are a little bit more performance based. I often use it as it's head to toe development, right?
Mm.
So tradition would say we plan sessions with technical and tactical,
Yeah.
whereas actually the best environments I've ever spent time in probably spend a lot of time on that social engagement piece
Yeah.
and that communication. And that's the power of sport and education to, you know, not coach always the high elite stuff, but it's to coach those hidden skills that are so, so important.
And I think particularly for the younger pupils who may be dominant because of the, physiological benefit they've got of, growing, maturing earlier. If we can teach them those leadership skills, you've got 11 on your team. So if you can make players 8, 9, 10, 11 better players, and if you've got the skill to do that, and I think you're right, if we can teach those social leadership skills early on, they're going to be of great benefit later, aren't they?
I always share this example. I'm a massive Arsenal fan, and Arsenal Football Club use the match play cards in the academy. And I went to go and visit the academy. Very privileged, very lucky to go in there, and got met at reception by these two 10-year-old boys. And they said, Jack, welcome to Arsenal Football Club. I think they knew more about me than I probably knew about myself, I felt at the time.
Yeah.
And they gave me a tour and they said, oh, I'm really looking forward to having you at training. And we love the cards. And,
Yeah.
Paul's, always talking about them. And And then asked the coach at the end of the evening when I said goodbye, I said, why do you get the two boys to, introduce me like they were amazing? But,
Yeah,
normally it's the adult you meet first. And he said, whether these boys go on and play in the Premier League and they're worth absolutely millions, or they go and work in an office, the ability to have a conversation with an adult
yeah,
and start a conversation and hold a conversation
yeah,
is so, so powerful. And it
brilliant.
always stays with me. And I always share that story because it's life skills. And life skills is an overused word, but it's skills to pay the bills is probably how I twist it.
Yeah,
It's skill sets that will pay the bills in whatever industry you are. And yes, the power of sport.
yeah, agreed completely. And I think that's the thing that people can take away with this, that you know you can challenge pupils at all different levels. You can make it uber competitive or not, but there is a way to make a game challenging and fun for every single pupil that you are teaching. And as a if you've got aspirations to be a top coach, that has got to be your goal. That every single player you're coaching is learning today and is getting something out of it.
It's interesting. I do a bit of work in the AFL at the moment when I'm over here, and most chaotic, crazy game in the world, and often taught so in lines and in structure. But the guys at the elite level, that's mixed ability groups because you've got two under 18s in that group
Yeah,
that are fresh out of school.
yeah,
You've got guys that have played 250 games, and that's the elite level, and that's still mixed ability.
yeah,
And I think often we associate mixed ability with the F team or the B team and the
yeah,
juniors, whereas actually everything's mixed ability and
yeah,
it's differentiation.
yeah,
And it's not, I think everyone should go and coach an F team
yeah.
because if you
I
can
agree.
coach an F team, you can coach a first team,
Yeah.
and that different experience.
Yeah. So listen, Jack, if you're going to finish off here with some advice for directors of sport, heads of sport about teaching games, what would it be?
I would give them 3 or 4 games. So straight away, one of my favorite games is the 4 goal game. So, or I think always having more than 2 goals to score in is a bonus
Yeah,
because you always get more goals.
yeah,
I think if you can measure something other than just the end score line, I think that's an absolute winner. There's obviously buying a deck of match play cards for, the
brilliant.
coaches and the teachers, but I also think I would challenge every director of sport and every single coach to start a lesson and a session with a game
Yeah,
because I think that will transform how you teach and how you coach the rest of that session rather than leaving the game for the last 10 minutes if we have time
yeah,
at the end. Whereas I'd encourage every 15 minutes of the first part of a lesson and a session should be games. It should be a little 2v2, 3v3.
yeah,
And let's say you've got 20 kids. One group might play 3v3, the other might play 7v7. It
yeah,
doesn't need to look the same, but yeah, challenge your coaches to start with games.
yeah. That's great advice, Jack. Well, thanks for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. And as I say, I'd recommend using your match day cards throughout. They're dead simple, they're cheap, and it really does. The kids love using them. So thanks for your resource and thanks for your time today, Jack.
Thanks so much, Chris.